some of your company's efforts in collusion with Joe Biden's campaign, led by the current Secretary of State, to suppress the factual reporting about Hunter Biden's laptop. Mr. Clegg, you acknowledged earlier that Facebook demoted that story after it was published by the New York Post. Is that right?
Correct, but I should clarify, we don't do that anymore.
Mr. Zuckerberg has said that you demoted it. He expressed regret. I assume you share that regret with your boss?
We learned that Russia had devoted millions to wide-ranging influence campaigns that literally generated hundreds of millions of online impressions, which sowed political division, racial division, and impersonated social, political, and faith groups of all stripes across all ends of the political spectrum to infiltrate and manipulate our debate. And again, we've seen Iran dramatically increase their efforts to stoke social discord in the U.S., while again potentially seeking to shape elections. We've seen lesser from China, but there have been some efforts by China on, not at the national level, but on down ballot races where candidates may not be taking a pro-CCP position. Recently, and literally in the last 8 weeks, we've seen a covert influence project led by RT to bankroll unwitting U.S. political influencers on YouTube. We've seen a wide-ranging Russian campaign that, frankly, has not gotten much media attention because I think they focused on the guys in Tennessee and not some of the slides that we're going to put up later in our questioning, where major institutions like the Washington Post and Fox News, the bad guys have basically put out false information under those banners with the goal of spreading what sounds like credible-sounding narratives to really shape American voters' perceptions of candidates and campaigns. Unfortunately, we now have a case where too many Americans, frankly, don't trust key U.S. institutions, from federal agencies to local law enforcement to traditional media. There is increased reliance on the internet. I think most of us would try to tell our kids, just because you saw it on the internet doesn't mean it's true. But the job of the adversary is to amplify things that are stated by Americans goes up dramatically.
Since Nick took the last one, I can start on this one. We have an extensive series. This year alone, we've seen a variety of malicious activity, including cyber attacks, efforts to compromise personal email accounts of high-profile political actors, and influence operations both on and off our platforms that are seeking to sow discord among Americans, the way you were both discussing. We remain on the lookout for new tactics and techniques in both cybersecurity and disinformation campaigns. We are seeing some foreign state actors experimenting with generative AI to improve existing cyber attacks, like probing for vulnerabilities or creating spear phishing emails. Similarly, we see generative AI being used to more efficiently create fake websites, misleading news articles, and robotic social media posts. We have not yet seen AI bring about a sea change in these attacks, but we do remain alert to new attack vectors.
Well, thank you, Chairman Warner. Thank you, Vice Chairman Rubio. It's a pleasure to be here. Every day we know that there is a presidential race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. But this has also become an election of Iran versus Trump and Russia versus Harris. And it is an election where Russia, Iran, and China are united with a common interest in discrediting democracy in the eyes of our own voters and even more so in the eyes of the world. There is a potential moment of peril ahead. Today we are 48 days away from this election, as you said, Chairman Warner. The most perilous moment will come, I think, 48 hours before the election. That's the lesson to be learned from, say, the Slovakian election last fall and other races we have seen.
I'm not sure any American, even a technology-savvy American, is going to figure out that these are fake. So what are we going to do about it in these next 48 hours to make sure that Americans are informed to beware? Mr. Clegg.
Well, firstly, Senator, you're absolutely right that it is a hallmark of Russian foreign interference in the democratic process to generate AI stories resembling real media. As it happens, since those appeared on our site, we have just over the last 48 hours banned the organization that spawned a lot of this activity, the disinformation, Rossiya Zavodnya, not least after the editor-in-chief gave an interview where she said publicly, and this is in effect a media organization owned and run out of the Kremlin, that she, and I quote, at least this is the translation, her and her team are conducting what she called guerrilla projects in the heart of American democracy. And the panel behind you is a manifestation of that.
Especially when we have an example of election interference here in America that was so egregious. Some of your company's efforts in collusion with Joe Biden's campaign, led by the current Secretary of State to suppress the factual reporting about Hunter Biden's laptop. Mr. Clegg, you acknowledged earlier that Facebook demoted that story after it was published by the New York Post. Is that right?
Correct, but I should clarify we don't do that anymore.
Mr. Zuckerberg has said that you demoted it. He expressed regret. I assume you share that regret with your boss?
Yes.
And you share what he said, that you're not going to do it anymore, right?
Correct. So that demotion does not take place today.